A coffin of iron, spikes on the inside, a slow, suffocating death. For centuries, the Iron Maiden has haunted the imagination as one of the cruelest torture devices of the so-called Dark Ages. But was this terrifying invention truly a tool of torture? Or simply a legend, stitched together to shock the world? The Iron Maiden is usually described as a tall, human-shaped sarcophagus, made of heavy blackened iron, more than 7 feet tall, with a serene woman's face on the outside, but the true horror lay within. When the doors opened, rows of metal spikes jutted inward. The victim would be forced inside, and as the doors closed, the spikes pierced the body. Not fatally at first, but slowly, agonizingly. The suffering could last hours, even days. In popular imagination, the Iron Maiden was reserved for traitors, heretics, and the most dangerous of criminals. It wasn't only an execution device, it was psychological terror, trapped in darkness, unable to move. Every breath pressed against sharpened iron, every twitch brought new pain. At least, that's the story we've been told. But history tells us something very different. Torture in medieval Europe was real. The rack, the breaking wheel, the thumbscrew, all well documented, all brutally effective. Torture was not only about punishment, but extracting confessions and instilling fear. So when people hear of the Iron Maiden, it sounds believable. Why wouldn't medieval Europe build something so monstrous? Here's where the mystery begins. Because the first mention of the Iron Maiden does not appear in the Middle Ages at all. Instead, it surfaces in the late 1700s, centuries later. The most famous story comes from Nuremberg. In 1515, a thief was supposedly locked inside the device. The doors closed, the spikes pierced his body, and he bled to death. This tale was reported by an 18th-century historian, Johann Philipp Siebenkees. But no other medieval source mentions it. No trial records, no witnesses, no chronicles, nothing. Historians now believe Siebenkees may have exaggerated, or even invented the story to captivate his readers. The so-called Nuremberg Maiden that appeared in museums. It wasn't medieval at all. It was built later, pieced together from old coffins, armor, and spikes. A theatrical display, not a true instrument of torture. In reality, the Iron Maiden was never used on prisoners. It was a museum hoax. So why did the myth spread? In the Enlightenment era, people wanted to see the Middle Ages as cruel, dark, and ignorant. By exaggerating the past, the present looked more civilized and advanced. The Iron Maiden became the perfect symbol of medieval barbarity. Writers, artists, and eventually filmmakers turned it into legend. And soon, the myth was stronger than truth. Even today, the Iron Maiden is everywhere. In horror movies, in novels, on album covers. And of course, it gave its name to one of the most famous heavy metal bands in history. The spiked coffin that never truly was, lives on in our imagination. So was the Iron Maiden real? The object itself exists, yes, but assembled long after the medieval era. The stories of its use are unverified, perhaps entirely false. Yet the myth endures, longer perhaps than any real torture device. In the end, perhaps the true power of the Iron Maiden lies not in cold iron, but in the way a story, once told, can haunt the human mind. Next time, we move from myth to brutal reality, as we uncover the rack, the bone-breaking king of medieval torture.